Welcome back to the Garlic Marketing Show. Ian Garlic here, and today we're going to talk about organizing your marketing. Get the most out of your marketing, any marketing efforts, by being organized, setting the right foundation, which I think is a crucial thing. I've seen so many messy marketing platforms, campaigns, everything. Emily Heck from Evergreen Strategic, thank you for being on the Garlic Marketing Show.
Thank you very much.
And before we get started, one of the best things to market with are your video case stories, and one of the best ways to organize them is through the case story tackle box. It is a complete way to strategize your customer stories, a place to keep them, a place to understand them. To learn more, go to videocasestory.com. All right, Emily, so we're going to talk today, you're going to tell us about how to clean up if you've made a mess, which I think is crucial. Because we see this all the time where it's like people have these amazing marketing materials that they spent $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on, and they have no idea where they are or what they're doing. But before we get started into this, you've worked with nonprofits. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you learned about why it needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, so I started my business in 2019, in the fall of 2019, but before that, I started my career in nonprofits. I worked for the local Boy Scout Council here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and then spent some time in higher education. And when I was starting my business and deciding to go out on my own, one thing that I started to notice, not only for nonprofits, but also for small businesses, is a lot of times their marketing departments are really messy, and the operational side of their marketing is really messy. And I am someone that likes organization and gets very excited about organization. And so I found this need that marketing departments, marketing directors, whatever, needed some help cleaning up their marketing so that it could function at the highest level possible. Because, for example, if you don't understand your email data, then how can you really utilize your email marketing? And there's a million different other examples like that, but that's where I found kind of my interest within my business.
When we think of marketing and time spent marketing, we think about creating something. We creating an ad, or brainstorming an ad, or looking at analytics and launching an ad. But there's so much time spent on finding a login, making sure you're finding where this is, finding the right one. I mean, I've had so many people call us up like, hey, do you know where this thing is? I'm like, we never touched that thing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, we can't find the password for our YouTube channel. I'm like, we never touched that YouTube channel. And it'd be like a back and forth. It would literally be hours. And you think about, that's just like one platform.
Yeah.
How much time can you save having this organized?
Oh, hours. I mean, days, months, I have a client right now that we're a year in, right? I mean, of trying to clean stuff up, and I still don't have access to their YouTube account. And so the amount of time that you can save, that you're not spending your energy and your staff time on who has the keys to the kingdom, basically, with your social media or your website or whatever, you can put into creating and, be creative and come up with good strategies and good campaigns. The first question when I come on with a client is, where are the keys to your platforms? Who has the Facebook login? Or who has the access to Facebook Business Suite? Who has the access to your website? What platforms are you using? And it seems like such a simple question, but sometimes it takes weeks for those clients to find those logins. And you got to keep that stuff organized and neat and tidy, because, just because that one person has it and they know where that one file is on your drive, deep in your drive, if they walk out tomorrow or something happens tomorrow, then you're sunk.
You're sunk. And we had this just recently too, like trying to get it analytics. It's been 2 months.
Yeah.
And I think about the value of that time, because it's not just the amount of time you work on it, it's the time that you're not actually executing that, right?
Yeah. And I find it to be within an organization, because I've been on the other side of this where I'm the one trying to hunt it down within an organization. It's so draining because you feel like you're just hitting a wall of this should be so simple and I can't find it. And I mean, then you're drained creatively. I mean, as marketers, we're trying to keep our creative juices always going. Then you're not at your fullest going into trying to come up with a campaign or a strategy or something like that.
Oh, 100%. That's immediately I thought of, because it's like, by the time it's like, I had the benefit of like meeting this billionaire once, and I was like, well, what's your, the biggest luxury you have? And he's like, my biggest luxury is being able to walk to work. And I'm like, this is a billionaire. And you think about it, the reason is because it was so easy for him to walk in and start doing what he loved. And how many times are you stuck in traffic? And this is the equivalent of being stuck in traffic 20 times a day. Like, where's that password? Oh my God, I hit shift exclamation point, shift positive. Mm-hmm. And by the time you get in there, you're so drained, you don't want to do it. And then thinking about it again, you're drained even thinking about doing that thing, so you just don't do it. And then we don't do any social media posts. And it's not because you don't have ideas, it's because you hate even getting into your social media. Not that I thought about this before, but
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's real. It is a real thing.
I mean, and I think it's one of those things that everyone sweeps under the rug, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I've got this. And I want to get into the tactics, right, of how to do this, because obviously we need to start doing it, and you need to start from someplace. But tell me about your nonprofit job, because I think a lot of businesses, even if they have someone that was just super organized with this stuff and leveraged with this stuff, they can make a lot more of their marketing dollar and the marketing time. I know they could. Tell me about your experience doing that.
Yeah, so when I walked into the Boy Scouts, my first job out of college, it was 2012. So marketing was very different than how it is now. I mean, think of just the social media platforms that didn't exist in 2012. And at the time, we thought like Facebook was the greatest thing. And so when I walked in there, it was very infantile in the department. I mean, my job was really send out press releases and do social media. And every once in a while, we're going to have you send an email. But as the marketing department grew, when I started there, I was a team of one. When I left, I was a team of two plus some interns. As the marketing department grew, the need for processes and systems also grew. And I think that was also just because in the marketing world in general, things were growing also. I mean, social media was really exploding. I mean, think about how far we've come just in the past few decades on email marketing. I mean, think of just how email marketing has changed within the past 5 years. And so it's interesting when I look back on 2012 when I started my career, just how simple marketing was and like processes were, and it grew in the time that I was there. And I mean, obviously has continued to grow, which kind of, brings me back to my point of like the need to have processes and planning and being organized, and things like that. So, that's a really interesting question. And I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but that's kind of a walk down memory lane I haven't even thought about for a while.
I mean, I can imagine, it's, and you're not only learning the stuff, but also kind of cleaning it up. But let's step back, because I think we were talking about before the show, how big was your marketing department and how many people did you serve?
So I was a team of one when I started. The council served 36,000 youth members at the time. So it was the middle third of the state of Indiana. So one marketing person for 36,000 members. That's not including the volunteers. That's not including the donor base. And we grew it to 2. So again, I'm kind of going, how did I do that? As you're asking these questions, because in any other business, I mean, that would be, if you have 36,000 customers, you would have a pretty robust marketing department. But in nonprofits, it's just kind of like, go figure it out. Like, let's do this. So yeah, that's interesting. You're giving me so many good perspectives to think of.
So when was the time that you realized that I mean, you seem like you're an organized person, so you probably were organized up front, but you're like, I have to start developing these organizational systems to keep this thing going. Was there a specific time at the Boy Scouts that happened?
I'm not sure if it was when I was at the Boy Scouts, but when I moved into higher education. So when I was at Butler University here in Indy, I worked in the marketing department, but I had a on-campus client. Within their department, they had 5 or 6 departments that I served. So I had an overall client and then 5 or 6 individual clients. So that was probably when I figured out, okay, we've got to figure out this system and this spider web and make sure all trains are running on time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I was about to keel over from just the crazy. And then also, like, how can you be effective in your marketing if you don't know where things are located?
Well, I mean, it seems like it makes sense, but we don't spend the time doing that.
Right.
And, just thinking about higher education too, because, I mean, no offense to anyone in higher education, but that's a complete mess. Not from because you have so many stakeholders and so many different rules and so many people to make happy, and you don't really technically have just one single boss, do you?
Yeah. Oh, that could be another conversation of higher education marketing. It is an interesting beast for sure.
And so how did you make it work? How did you make it work? I mean, what types of campaigns were you running for them, and how did you make it work?
So my job was created, obviously prior to my arrival, in preparation for the launch of a $250 million comprehensive campaign. And my role was to figure out how to increase donor engagement before that campaign launched 2 years after my arrival. And so I had this web of all these different audiences that I had to figure out how to engage so that when the campaign launched, they were feeling really good about the university and good enough to make a gift. And so it's so hard to actually put into words how you figured that out, but really it was getting in a room with a huge whiteboard and just start mapping it out. And that's really what I still do that to this day, is I start mapping out customer journeys. I start mapping out the communication channels we have access to now, the ones that we want to be able to have access to in the future, and just start scribbling on that whiteboard and getting it figured out. Because you're right. I mean, in higher education, and a lot of organizations have this, higher education is unique in the way they approach it, but we had so many audiences that we were trying to communicate with, all with different messages, and you've got to figure out how to interweave all of that and make sure you're not stepping on the next person was important.
Yeah, that's tough. So, you left, and now you work with both small businesses and nonprofits. When you go into these small businesses and nonprofits, how important is it to start by organizing stuff? Why do you need to organize stuff right away?
To be more effective. Number one, in order to be more effective, I found this niche within nonprofits and small businesses of, when I started my business, I thought, I'm just going to do email and social media. I'm going to do the implementation side of what they need in their marketing. And I found that I was spending a lot of time getting our bases covered and organized. And so that's where I decided, okay, we got to figure out step one here first. Because what I found with nonprofits and small business owners a lot is they are running 1,000,000 miles an hour. I mean, nonprofits, while a lot have dedicated marketing people, a lot don't. And so, the executive director is doing marketing, fundraising, keeping the board engaged, maybe the HR, they have so many hats, and I mean, a small business owner is the same way. And so they've just, one day we're going to start a Facebook page, and one day I'm going to hop on MailChimp and I'm going to open that account, and the next day I'm going to, get on whatever website and I'm going to create a website today because someone has told me along the way that I need a website, and there's really no thought behind how they're setting up these platforms or why they're setting up these platforms. And so that's what I'm spending a lot of time, is kind of untying that knot that's probably been created by just the unintended consequence of running a million miles an hour.
And when you go into there, and I've got to imagine it's like going into someone's garage. My garage is messy, and then be like, I don't want you to look at it. Do you get a lot of pushback on that cleanup?
I don't get so much pushback on I don't want to show you my dirty laundry as much as I get pushback on I don't really get why we need to spend time doing this. It's kind of like, well, my car fits in the garage, so it's doing what it needs to. Why do we need to clean up all the junk around the garage? Whatever. So that's probably where I get the most pushback. And really what I say is we need to spend time doing this because it is right. It is going to make us more effective. But then, especially the small business owners, where I really start to bring them along is if I'm spending time doing your marketing, I'm going to be a lot quicker, meaning my hours are going to go down, meaning what I'm billing you for is going to go down, which is going to save you money. So if we're getting this organized and set up properly, then me as the consultant can be more effective, which in turn will help you not only for, bills and invoicing, but then also just raise your profile within the community, which is obviously the most important part.
Yeah. If it's super easy and super simple for them to be posting stuff and making stuff and generating, and we all know it's going to one place, it becomes easier to market, and you get better marketing done.
Right.
I think instead of checking the box.
Right.
100%. It's amazing because we do the case story tackle box for this exact reason. Mm-hmm. And we would see people like, oh, I've got customer stories. I'm like, well, where are they? I don't know. These are literally $100 million organizations, mm-hmm. and these customer stories can be making them $1 million a year, and they're like, I don't know. But then when you have it all in one place, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Mm-hmm. I know. And that's why we call it the tackle box. It's like you don't want to go out fishing and go out there and be like, I don't know where all my hooks are.
Right. Yeah.
And that's exactly it. Awesome. So Emily, tell us about working with you. Where's the best place to go or best place to follow you?
Yeah, so my website is evergreenstrategic.org, where you can learn a little bit more about me. And then if you want to get directly in contact with me, you can via my website, but I'm big on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. You can find me, Emily Heck, in Indianapolis, and would love to connect and chat, either, about marketing processes or anything else, so.
Well, thank you so much for being on. We'll make sure to put all the links down below. And, if you all are thinking about getting organized, which you should, as your small business, definitely reach out to Emily. Emily, thank you again for being on the Garlic Marketing Show.
Thank you so much. I had a really good time. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, too. And thank you all for taking Emily and I on your journey to spend on garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.